I look like I'm in a call center or Madonna or something. I don't know.
All right, well, let's start here. State your name, something about you, could be a hobby, could be your job, whatever you want. And did you have an invisible friend as a kid?
Well, okay, so my name is David Litchfield. Something about me, I'm an illustrator. I live in Bedford in England. There must be more interesting things about me. I have 2 sons. That's kind of, I'm very boring, really.
No, it's perfect.
I'm kind of boring. I kind of had an invisible friend. Was he invisible? I mean, it was an imaginary friend, which
I guess that's kind of what I meant. Imaginary friend.
Yeah. So it's invisible to other people, but he was totally there. And it was Chewbacca. It was Chewbacca from Star Wars. So,
for real?
Again, probably not the most kind of original thing ever. But
yeah.
Like that character was just such a comforting character for me. I just needed a Chewbacca to look out for me.
Did you have your own name for him, or was it just literally Chewbacca?
It was Chewbacca.
Awesome.
He was basically like on a break from Han Solo. He came and visited me and said, "I'm gonna look after you."
I knew I saw you in the Christmas special.
I was in the Christmas special.
Would you let someone take 5 items from your home, any 5 they wanted to at the time, for $70,000?
Oh yeah. Well, not human beings. They're not an item.
No, not anything that's not a human.
Okay, and a dog? Would they be able to take my dog?
No dogs either.
Anything totally. Then. Yeah. Oh, without even question, absolutely.
You don't have anything like on your computer that would be sacred to you if they took your computer?
Oh, it's in the iCloud. So who cares? Yeah. Just take it. Just smash it up. Right. I really don't think. No. Well, the only thing that I've got. So basically. It's going back to, oh man, I'm such a nerd, but it's like a Star Wars thing again. So basically, I've had anything related to Star Wars, I used to just keep. It would be toys, but it would also be like if there was a tiny little mention of Star Wars on a section of the cover of a magazine or something like that, and kind of trading cards, everything, I'd keep it because I was just obsessed with it, and I kind of still am, but not to that same level. So I had boxes and boxes of Star Wars memorabilia that I just felt like it was my job to collect this, to keep this stuff. Like it was my role in society to collect all this Star Wars stuff, not throw any of it away. And one day maybe I'll get to open a Star Wars museum of memorabilia or something.
So you would like feel maybe like a little bit nervous they would take something, but you'd still
I've gradually over time, I've had to get rid of some of it. So I've got it down to just one storage box of Star Wars stuff that I'm just like, that's too precious, some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that would be the only thing, if they took anything from my Star Wars box that, is going to be like with me till I die. I'll be buried with my Star Wars box. I think I'll be all right with it. For how much is it? $75,000?
70,000.
Yeah, I'd be all right. They can take the whole box.
You get over it.
To be honest.
Do you have a collector's instinct in general?
I used to. It's probably like a obsessive compulsive disorder thing, because I used to when I got into something, I really went for it. I guess just kind of growing up and kind of just not having the time for that anymore. I don't know where I would fit in that kind of collector's instinct, or being able to afford it, because having kids and owning a house and stuff and being a grown up is so expensive and so dull but expensive. But yeah, I think I do. Like it's books and things. I've still got a ton of books. I've gradually kind of been getting rid of some of them, where I'm just like, how long have I got left on planet Earth? I've got like 50 years left, maybe, I don't know, 60. Am I going to really read this book again in those 50, 60? That's a really bleak and depressing way of looking at it.
That's the same way I think. So
I was just like, I've got to get rid of some of that.
Yeah. Do you remember the first non-children's book you read?
Yes, I do actually. Oh, crikey. Yeah, no, was this my first? I think this was my first. This is the one that I really remember reading. And I was quite old. So I read children's books, and then I read comics and then like things like Asterix books and stuff, which I guess will class as children's books, even though some of them so aren't. But my first sort of proper novel was The Beach by Alex Garland, which I guess I was about like 13, I guess, so fairly old, I guess. Apart from books that we were made to read.
What was it about that book? Like, was there something about that book that like you loved, or is it just one of the first ones and that was it? It
was basically, so in the 90s, I was a bit of a Britpop kid. So when I was like 13, I started to really get into music and, Oasis and stuff and all these great bands that came out of that era.
Right. Never heard of Oasis, but go on. No,
I'll come off it now. So anyway, this book, it seemed to fit into that kind of thing, even though it was about a beach in Thailand. The author, Alex Garland, was sort of in with that crowd, and he was quite a young guy. I think he was like 26 when he wrote it. And I think he was involved in like making music videos for some of them? Anyway, he was just a very cool guy who kind of looked like he should be in a band, and being very superficial, I sort of really was drawn to this guy, and I thought, I've got to read his book, even though it was totally not appropriate for a 13-year-old to read, really.
Right.
Though in many ways it was kind of perfect at the same time, because it was all about drugs and sex.
English writer and filmmaker.
Yeah. He's gone on to he made the Dread movie, actually, or he wrote the Dread movie.
Oh shit! He did the screenplay for 28 Days Later.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome.
Damn.
And it's funny, like following his career, I've had this like almost like kind of a sibling pride sort of following it. I've been really kind of proud of the guy. He was like, it's almost like he was one of us, even though I don't think he was one of us. He was like a mega kind of rich, who kind of, probably didn't have to worry about paying away. But anyway, he's great. And that was my first book, I think, that I read. And I was one of those books that I remember carrying it around and just sort of feeling really cool carrying it. Like I'd want people to know that I was reading The Beach.
I remember feeling that way about The Gunslinger. When I was like early on in my life, I found it at the school library, and I was like, I feel cool holding this.
Oh, totally. Well, it's funny. So I went from reading this kind of quite cool, kind of edgy book. Oh, am I back?
Just a little lag.
I went from reading this kind of quite cool, kind of edgy book. Oh yeah, no, I'm getting that as well. I think it's probably my Wi-Fi. I don't know. We're talking over the Atlantic Ocean,
right?
So, we're doing all right. But no, then I went on to Stephen King. Like straight after that book, I read loads of Stephen King books, and I bloody love Stephen King. I know he's probably not the most fashionable author, right? But I absolutely bloody love him. For me, growing up in Kempston, which is just outside Bedford in England, having Stephen King was almost like a transporter to America. It was the way he described America. Was just like, it's just how I picture America now. It
transported you to some more superior, better continent.
Well, kind of, but it looks great. If you take out all the kind of murderers and the ghouls and ghosts, and Stephen King's America looked awesome. It looked like the place I wanted to be. And for me, they were a snap, sort of pre-internet, I guess. They were a bit more of a snapshot into how Americans live. So
I still don't have that experience, obviously, because I live in America, and I knew kind of like the areas a lot of his stuff took place in. So that's interesting. Someone reading it so far away and just that, that must be what America's like.
Well, the first experience of Stephen King was the made for TV movies, because they were a big deal over here because we got them like pretty soon after you guys got them. So we had the Tommyknockers, and they were billing it like straight from the US.
Yeah.
The day after the US, because that was unheard of. Like we'd usually have to wait sometimes you have to wait a year for like a movie to come from a movie would be out in America, and then we'd have to 9 to 12 months for it to come out here. It was hell. And that was a big deal. So the Tommyknockers was awesome, and obviously it was like traumatizing to all of us.
We're somewhat of a similar age, so that traumatized the shit out of me.
I guess so, yeah. Oh my God. My friend still can't watch it. It's like my friend is, is a grown man with a family and he just can't watch it I did watch it again recently and Jesus Christ, it's horrifying.
Yeah. There's two, when I talk to people who watched it growing up, they either watch it again and they're like, oh, now it's just so corny, or they still have that sense of dread. I definitely still have that sense of dread when I watch it again. Like I watched it fairly recently. It still affects me in some way.
Yeah. In many ways, the kind of corniness and the low budgetness of it, that's not a word, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That makes it even worse because it gives it a proper kind of, B-movie kind of video nasty kind of feel. Because it's all kind of, and the music kind of goes out of tune occasionally, and it's just got this really kind of, it's like the kind of video that would be your friend would be like, I've got it, and we're gonna wait until my parents go to bed and we're gonna watch it.
It's funny. I was just saying this. I was saying this the other day that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes a movie in the horror genre that's not that well made affects me deeper.
Yes.
So yeah.
Why is that though? What is the reason for that?
Maybe because it's I haven't really thought deeply about this, but it's almost similar to maybe music, where if I hear a song that's a little bit more raw and less produced, it impacts me on a deeper level. I don't know if I want to say deeper level, but it's more like visceral, if that's the right word. I'm not really sure. So maybe it has to do with horror movies as well, where it's like, this isn't super polished and there's something more emotional about that, more immediate, and that affects me more. I'm not sure.
It's the personal aspect, maybe. It's like, the fact that you can actually see this human beings have come up with this sick, twisted idea that, with viewing, and they've used their hands to make it. And I don't know, maybe it's like the whole CGI thing. The CGI has just got a much more impersonal
for sure
feel to it. I'm kind of trying to spot the CGI, and when you're just faced with some kind of rubber kind of piece of crap that's going to kill you.
Yeah, I don't know if it's our age or not, but I definitely CGI is tough for me too. Unless it's really tastefully done, it's tough for me to get past that.
Only in the last 5 years that I've been able to kind of not consider that it's CGI that I'm looking at. I think they've started to get it perfectly. Well, not perfectly, because there's always going to be, But did you ever see the updated version of E.T. when it came out? When they CGI'd CGs.
No. I think I specifically remember avoiding it, actually.
Don't do it. It's heartbreaking, really. But that for me is perfect. That kind of goes back to what we were just talking about, because E.T. for me is like Steven Spielberg had to work really hard to make me fall in love with this piece of rubber that was so obviously, a puppet. But he worked so hard, and his filmmaking prowess turned that alien in that piece of rubber into a real life alien for me. And then when they CGI'd over the top of it, it was just like I have no emotions towards this piece of CGI rubbish.
Yeah, it's weird for me talking about Star Wars, all the added CGI scenes. I'm like, I wonder if I was younger, would I see that and be like, oh, they enhanced it. It looks better now. Like, because when I saw it, it was not to be over dramatic, but it was semi heartbreaking.
Yeah,
I can't believe they did this.
I'm with you, and I think like I used to teach a few years ago. I used to teach at FE, Further Education College, so kids were like 16 to 21, and so they were like 10 years younger than me. So for them, well, the prequels was like their Star Wars introduction. And that was they were like, I only really watch the prequels. I don't really watch the original. And I was seething. I was like so angry with them. I was like, you know nothing. And then they talk about the special editions, and some of them didn't even know that they were special editions. Just saw that as like, and I guess that's okay. I guess I'm at peace with that now. If that's what they're loving about Star Wars, then who am I to?
I mean, Star Wars is so the series that everyone can get heated on real quick.
It's got a bit, but I actually love the last lot of films. I think they're like brilliant, and I can totally get why people don't like them. But I think I think I'm at a point now, and 5 years ago, I don't think I'd have been like this, where I'm just like, it's just Star Wars. It's not nothing to get too crazy about. I mean, just if you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. And, you know, you always have those original films that you can go back to, and whereas I've just decided to go with it, and I think it's good because I've got my son's 8 now, and it's kind of like I watch these films sort of with him, and I watch them through his eyes, and I guess that gives you a bit more of a less critical viewpoint on them. You're kind of thinking, okay, these are kids' films. Enjoy them as children, and you know.
Yeah, I love talking about like art in general, and I don't have the vocabulary or like knowledge to sound smart, but I love talking about it. And specifically, I love talking about movies, and I will get into, and I enjoy almost get into heated discussions about movies because it means both people care, but it's only in the context of that conversation that there's like any heat. Like, I don't carry that. I'm not like, well, now I'm fucking mad at you. You know what I mean? Like, I love having discussions that can get a little emotional.
I do too.
Only in the context of that conversation. Once you get past, you get weird once it goes past there.
Absolutely. And that's the sort of thing that I didn't like about all the stuff that was going on with Star Wars is like, I didn't generally get involved, but I'd see these kind of discussions happening.
Right.
And it was like you were 2 steps away from bringing Donald Trump into it, or bringing race into it, or bringing all this kind of nonsense that, well, actually, kind of, you know, race and politics have always existed in Star Wars, and you know, I love that about it. But it started to get very personal. Some of these attacks, you know,
real weird. It got real weird.
It was very unnecessary. When you just think, come on, man, they're like fighting with laser swords,
right?
And you know, it
got weird. It got weird.
Around.
Like, I did definitely notice people in my life, like, if you didn't like Star Wars movies, they would assume they knew why, and it was some like race reason, or but if you did like them, the other side would assume, oh, you're just doing it for it was like, wait, this is a piece of art. We can have our own thoughts on these things, you know?
Oh my goodness, you are totally speaking so many truths right now. It's far too personal a fandom. I think people need to calm down a bit.
Yeah, I totally agree. But shifting gears from all that.
Yes, stop me talking about Star Wars. I've lost like girlfriends because I talk too much about Star Wars, and it's awful, really.
Who would you say you are in the middle of the night? Do you wake up often? And if you do, what usually happens? You sleep well?
Oh man, this is a big question for me. No, I don't sleep well at all at the minute. It's which is why I've got these like rings around my eyes. But it's weird. I go to bed feeling like I feel really happy and contented. I feel great. I'm happy with my life. I'm happy with my work. I'm happy with how things are going in general. And then it's almost like something happens at like 2 a.m. And I just wake up and I'm like, holy shit, what is, you know, why am I doing this? What am I doing with my life? What have I doing with my family? You know, why am I doing this job that's so kind of unpredictable? And, you know, am I going to be able to, all these kind of messed up kind of thoughts. It seems to be that 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. it's so the perfect time to be thinking about this. It's like a typical way of dealing with these issues that you're thinking about now at 2 a.m. in the morning in the middle of Bedford. You have no physical way of sorting this out. You may as well go back to sleep, but there's just something that keeps me up, and I'm awake for like an hour most nights, just sort of staring at the ceiling. And then I do something weird, right? Which not what you want to hear, but I do something where I then turn on my phone, and because like England shut down. Everything shuts down at 11 o'clock. We have like 24-hour news, but it's just repeating every half an hour. So I turn on CNN. I go on my phone, like I turn on CNN. I turn on American news, because for me, and that seems to send me off, even though it's some of the most messed up stuff you can ever imagine. You know, it's Donald Trump talking nonsense. It's kind of all these crazy people buying guns and thinking they can shoot the coronavirus and stuff. But I watch it and it calms me down somehow, because I don't know. It's just, well, also because at 2 o'clock in the morning, I guess it's like 10 o'clock at night over there for you. My 2 o'clock is like 10 o'clock.
I think so. I'm not positive, but yeah.
Kind of like the prime time viewing, and they're really working hard. They're really going for it. It's like all these newsreaders are really, and it's almost like I'm watching wrestling in a funny way. The way news is presented in prime time in America is.
Do you think now, for me, I actually could sleep. I am a horrible sleeper, but that's a whole different story. But I could actually sleep better when there are other people who are awake. And I'm wondering if you do that in a certain way to feel almost comforted that, oh, look, they're up. They're doing that.
You need to be my therapist. No, I totally think that I need to know that the world is kind of carrying on and there's things happening, and I totally do that, and in the back of my mind, I know that's what I'm doing. I'm like, right, I'm in this dark room. I've got these very internal thoughts going on in my mind. I need to just connect with the world and, see that there is a world out there and see that there's stuff going on, even if it is thousands of miles away from my home. If you look out my window at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's just blackness. Like everyone's lights are off. There's like one street lamp at the top of my road. It's quiet. We don't even have like crickets or anything. We don't have like a howling wolf kind of in the background, in the distance. It's just silent in England.
Well, look, what we're going to do is this. We're going to work this out. I'm going to fly over there, and then around 2:30 in the morning, I'm going to come to your window and start howling like a wolf. So you'll know someone's out there.
That would be perfect. If you can grow your lockdown beard and hair again, then we're going to work this out.
We're going to work this out. Have you ever had a public freakout?
Oh yeah, no, lots of times. So like I lived in London. In fact, I had a fairly public freakout in New York, actually. So me and my wife went to New York for our honeymoon. Like, oh my God, like it was 10 years ago. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. And I'd never been to New York before. That was my first time in America. And like, I'm not a big fan of flying anyway. So first of all, the flight freaked me out because it's like 7 hours, which is just too long to be flying or up in the air in a kind of crazy thing. And we were staying in Times Square. So like right in the heart of everything, and it was New Year's. It was just after Christmas, so they were building up for New Year's Eve and everything, and it was just bloody bonkers, man. And I was just like, I can't handle it. So for the first we were there for like 5 days, and for the first 3 days, I was like, I'm not enjoying this. This is not my place. This is like the most amazing place in the world, right? And I was just like saying, I'm not enjoying this at all. Yeah. I need to go home. This is like too much for me. And she was like, let's just go and walk around, and we'll go and do some New York things. Like we'll go to Central Park, and we'll go and we'll go to a diner and all these kind of things that I'd be really looking forward to doing. Just simple things. And we did all that, and I was like, I know I need to be doing this. I know I need to be enjoying this. And I tried really hard. And because I was trying so hard, I was just like, and it was snowing as well. It was like it was a really wintry kind of thing. And that was another thing that freaked me out. When we was flying in, they were like, yeah, we might not be able to land in New York. There's too much snow. And I was like, well, this is too much. You can't make humans do this. And then, we was walking around, and it was like midday, and I just lost it. I just completely lost it. And I think it was because, like, for some reason, because of the snow, I think, like, they hadn't been able to take all the rubbish out of the streets and stuff. So it was just piling up. And I saw, like, this, first of all, I thought it was a wolf, but it was a fox, and it was just freaking me out, this fox. It was staring at me, and, like, because it was, like, going in the rubbish. And that fox took me over the edge, and I was just like, I need to get back to the hotel, and I need to just, like, cry in the hotel. And like, this is my new wife, my newlywed wife. We've been together for a few years, so she knew what I was like, really. But this was like peak kind of crazy me. And I was just like, oh my God, what am I doing in New York? Why am I here? Why, what is going on? Why have I got to do? I was like looking up on my phone, like how to get a ferry from New York to England to Dover. Oh, wow. Because I was like, I don't want to fly again. I can't go through that. Every kind of weird kind of thing in my brain was kicking off, like a proper existential crisis that hit me in New York.
I love the thought of you just in crisis mode. Like, I got to get the fuck out of here.
Oh, totally. But the thing is, those roads are so long. Like, and our hotel was, I could see our hotel. It was like that big. And it was past Trump Tower and all these kind of things. And I was like, I just got to get there. And I literally, my wife was like a mile behind me because I was like, I just can't look at anyone. And I didn't know what was going on. Anyway, I got into the hotel. And you know what brought me around, actually? This brings us full circle, actually.
Yeah, okay, good.
Because I got into my hotel and I just put the TV on. I thought, I need to watch something. I need to watch something to calm me down. Probably, again, to connect me to the world. But Ghostbusters was on the TV. Ghostbusters. And I started watching Ghostbusters and I was just like, they're in the New York Library. They're in the Lincoln Center. They're in all these places that I'd literally just ran past to get to my hotel. And I was like, what am I doing? This is the coolest place in the world. It's in bloody Ghostbusters, for God's sake. I'm living in Ghostbusters right now. And I was like, I need to calm the fuck down.
Yes, yeah.
I am in the set of Ghostbusters.
That's definitely a good movie to watch before you come to New York, for sure.
Well, I didn't really, again, it's one of those movies that I've just watched all my life. And it wasn't until that moment that I fully was like, this is such a New York movie. Even though, I loved it for the ghosts and I loved it for the character and, Pete Venkman and all these great characters. In that moment, I was like, I love this movie for New York. It's making me remember what I love about New York.
Wow,
and the
that's
fact
awesome.
I'm here. And then it was like, no, come on, we're going to go out and we're going to see New York and we're going to do everything we wanted to do. And for we had 2 days left and I just enjoyed the hell out of New York after that. And it was because of Ghostbusters. But also, we then also went to like Soho and, all the less kind of crazy places, much more chilled. And I was like, this is the New York I wanted to see. This is like Central Park and Times Square. They're great, but we should not have got a hotel there because it's crazy.
I was going to say at first, like, you're staying at Times Square? Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, some people,
Awful.
I guess that's okay, but I would never suggest to do that.
No. I mean, I guess we kind of got, we were thrown into the deep end and we saw New York for what it really is, which is just kind of chaos, but in a really beautiful way. But yeah, next time I go, I'm going to stay in Soho and some of those areas, I think.
That's awesome. It's funny how those little moments, like just you catching Ghostbusters, changed your whole perspective and attitude. Those little moments in life always interest me.
Well, absolutely. I mean, if it wasn't for Ghostbusters just being, and it was on the TV at that point, it wasn't like I put it on purposely. I just turned the TV on and it was like sort of halfway through. And so, yeah, no, thank goodness. But that's kind of the power of all this stuff, really. I guess the first time I saw Ghostbusters was around my nan's house when I was like 8 or 7 or something. So it really brought me back to that as well. And it just really calmed me down. Subscribe movies to, sort these things out.
Yeah. Yep. Art has weird influences over I think everybody. I don't know, maybe not. Can you think of something that used to terrify you as a kid that no longer terrifies you?
Ooh, wow. Most things still do terrify me, to be fair. Let's think. This is a very good question. Yeah, do you know what? I don't know, like smoking cigarettes used to terrify me.
Oh, really?
Because as you know, people that smoked cigarettes, it was kind of a crazy thing, and I guess it was something that had been drilled into me that smoking is bad and stuff. And I remember when I was like a teenager, I started smoking. I was very kind of like, I'm going to start smoking, and I remember thinking this is like the worst thing I could be doing. I could go to jail for this. I could, this is going to lead on to bad, much worse things. But it kind of got rid of that fear, I guess, of not just smoking, but people who were smoking. Like I'd move away from people who were smoking because I think they're dodgy. They've got something wrong with them. They're criminals, those people, just because they're smoking cigarettes. And maybe that is a movie thing again. All the baddies smoked and, who knows. Also, this is a weird one. And you probably won't know this reference, but when I was really young, I was really scared of a program here called Only Fools and Horses. I don't suppose you ever heard of that program.
Oh, say that again?
Only Fools and Horses. Have you ever heard of that show?
No, I have not.
It's like the most British show you can have, but they were all kind of cottons in London, in South London. And it's supposed to be a comedy. but it's quite dark and twisted. Like they're trying to make money and they're kind of shifty and they're doing kind of criminal things. And everyone loved it in my family, and everyone loved country like in the 80s and 90s. And they were just so mean, these characters in it and stuff. But I've absolutely made my peace with Only Fools and Horses now. Like I watch it and it's hilarious. So yeah, those two things probably are the only ones that stand out really. That's a good question. I like that question.
Okay, so how about this? What's a children's book that you would suggest to an adult?
Well, the Bear and the Piano, obviously, the greatest one ever made.
I never heard of it.
So, what's the children's book I would? Oh man, there's just so many beautiful ones, and you know, it's not a modern thing, but so many picture books throughout the ages have dealt with such kind of adult themes. Oh God, what's it called? There's one. In fact, I've got it here. Oh no, I can't tell my head because of this thing. Oh crap! What's it called? There's one about literally about death. It's got death. It's death in the. I'm gonna have to look it up actually because
it's got death in the title.
Yeah. It's totally got death in the title. It's beautiful though. Is it Death and the Goose? There we go. Duck, Death and the Tulip, of course, by Wolf Erebouche.
I never heard of this. Huh?
I hadn't heard of it since recently, and it's been out for quite a while. It's been out for like 15 years or something, which I guess is quite a while. But I read it to my son when he was really young, and I sort of knew it was about. Well, it's obviously about death because it's in the title, but I knew it would be a bit kind of hard hitting. But wow, I wasn't prepared for how
it's just all pictures of corpses. Is that the book?
No. It's about a duck who is like about to die, and he's walking around this pond, and then death turns up, and it's just like so peaceful and so beautiful. He's like stroking the duck, and he's like, "Come on, don't be scared. This is just what happens. This is what happens. Part of life is this bit." And oh my God, I was in pieces when I read that, and it's beautifully illustrated. I think the guy's like Dutch or something, so he's got this very kind of it's just got a very kind of European kind of feel to it, and it's just bloody beautiful in like every single way. And I think it's probably my most. I always say like Where the Wild Things Are is my favorite because it's the one that's just been with me since I was born. Basically. Yeah,
same here. It's what my first tattoo was. That.
Oh wow, amazing. Yeah. But I think this one is probably my favorite, and I mean, it should be more famous than this. I guess it's because it's got death in the title.
Yeah, probably.
It's not the first book a parent would buy for their children with their nighttime read. But I really recommend. I would totally recommend
Sesame Street book, or you get this duck dying book. Which one do you want?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a tough one, but that really opened my eyes as to what kind of the medium of children's books could do, and it made me really excited to make my own children's books. And I've never been as explicitly kind of like blatant as that book about what the subject matter is, but the fact that you can kind of tell these stories and kind of offer kind of metaphors and kind of look at kind of all these different ways of kind of expressing something through a children's story. This was one of the books that really made me excited to become a children's book illustrator, definitely.
Well, look, let's do two more.
Okay.
Do you remember the first horror movie you ever watched?
Oh man, yeah, I do. It wasn't it, but it was around about the same time as it. But so I had a friend called James, who was again one of these kids who could just get his dad would just get the most kind of awful videos.
Yeah, that's classic James.
Yeah. And we'd go around and watch them, and I think it was Halloween was the very first one that I saw. Around James's house, but which was I sort of remember not being that freaked out, but the one that it wasn't my first one, but the one that really like proper messed me up when I was a kid was a film my brother showed me. My brother's 7 years older than me, so he would stay up and watch, and we shared a bedroom, which was kind of awkward in so many ways because for me it was brilliant because I was hanging out with my older brother, but for him having someone 7 years younger than you in the bedroom when you're going through these incredibly formative years. Would have been so awful. Anyway, he had a TV by his bed and he'd stay up and watch these movies. And the one that I remember sitting up with him watching when I was supposed to be asleep, and if my mum had found out, she would have killed us, was The Shining. And I watched that when I was probably about 8 years old, so the same age as what my son is now.
That's brutal.
There's no way in hell I would let my son watch that movie.
That's brutal. That's a brutal age to watch that.
Wow. And I honestly think it gave me some kind of weird psychological issues throughout my life, watching it that young, because it's just so messed up. It's just even stuff like, kind of just when they're talking to each other. What's his name? Scatman Carruthers, is that his name? Or
yeah, something along those lines.
The caretaker guy.
Yep.
He's talking to Jack Nicholson, and then he stares at Danny, and he's still talking, and then he communicates to Danny. I even thinking about it now, it's awful. But wow, what an amazing movie! And it's not so. Again, I think this is the same with Halloween. It's like it's not so much the knife kind of attacks. Mm-hmm. It was stuff like that. It was the psychological messed up weirdness of that movie, and and just him talking to the barman, and then you're like, well, is he a ghost? Where have all these people come from that are now? Oh, I couldn't cope with it, and it was on late, so I just remember that being a big moment.
And I feel like even at that age, I mean, maybe this is me speaking for you, but like you're not mature enough to appreciate like good filmmaking and good writing and stuff. So all you're getting is what the fuck am I seeing right now? Like,
but I think that's where that filmmaking is effective, because I can really visualize the slow moving down the camera. And I'm not thinking about the fact that that's an amazing shot. I'm not thinking about the fact that that's incredible how they're doing that. I'm thinking about what is at the end of that corridor. Why are we moving towards it? Why is the music getting like that? It's visceral. It's a real kind of like instant impact.
It's still a very effective movie, at least for me. But I have, it's weird. Like I don't believe so much in supernatural stuff in my everyday life, but supernatural movies do tend to affect me. I'll think about it, and once in a while this still happens, even if I haven't watched one, is like I'll wake up at night, I've said this a million times, but whatever, and I'll feel like there's a demonic presence in the room, even though I don't believe in that stuff. Like it's this weird thing that happens to me. There's I've definitely been traumatized by a few horror movies growing up that I shouldn't have seen, and The Shining at age 8, that's a brutal one.
Yeah, I mean, I blame my brother for a lot of. I mean, I'm kind of grateful that he made me watch. Well, he made me watch these films, but he had me.
You sit down and you watch this.
Like I must have had so many of those movies kind of subconsciously going into my brain while I was falling asleep, because I'd fall asleep to the sound of his TV. He watched the messed up stuff. I also remember another Kubrick film. I remember watching 2001, and I actually think that was probably the most affecting film of my youth. I watched that. Maybe it was even like a Kubrick season they were doing on TV or something, but it was a similar sort of time. And I remember I didn't even watch it. I was in my bed, and I remember the noise of that monolith, like the singing and the humming, and that was so terrifying.
See, hearing people's little memories, like what you just described, just like, that it's not something you would typically bring up in a lot in conversation. It just lives in your head. And I love hearing stuff like that from people, where it's like that little instance, that sound, where you're sitting there, your eyes are closed, you're not looking or whatever, but that ingrained itself inside of you.
It was, I wasn't even watching TV. I was in bed. I was like falling asleep, and I had this
that's awesome,
kind of crazy noise coming out of me, and I was like, that's freaking me out.
We just remember the weirdest things.
It is kind of crazy how that's one thing that's definitely stuck with me, that noise.
Yep.
And even when I watch that movie now, I mean, I love that movie. It's like, I did like a thesis on that movie at uni and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
And but even now, I freaks me out, that singing monolith.
Can you tell me about a memory that you purposely think about in order to feel happy, or just a memory that you think about and it makes you feel happy when you do?
Oh man,
it could be something super mundane. It doesn't have to be grand.
Well, it is. It's kind of like, it's having those kind of memories does make you well, for me anyway. I've only recently been sort of really kind of grateful for for my life.
Mm.
You know, it's you know, me and my brother and my sister, you know, we grew up, it was a fairly modest kind of house, and, you know, my mum and dad didn't work in amazing jobs, you know, we didn't have a great deal of money, but the memories I do have, I'm so grateful for them. And the ones that stick out, it's mainly like me riding my bike. You know, I used to ride my bike, and I'd have this amazing sense of freedom.
Yeah.
And just kind of, you know, I'd be like at the peak of like me, basically. I'd feel like so incredibly David's when I'm riding. Like, I'd be the coolest I could ever be riding my bike, even though I probably look like an absolute like dork riding my bike.
Same here. Yeah.
But it was just that sense of like, oh my God, I'm riding my bike, I'm going so fast, I'm going over hills. And
I think for a lot of, at least for me, it almost gave you a sort of vague sense. It wasn't anything I thought about consciously at the time, but just thinking back, like a vague sense of being an adult. Like, I have something that's getting me around, like kind of like a car, but not really, whatever.
Oh, totally. It was independence is what that bike gave me. It was like, I can go from my house to like somewhere quite far away in 10 minutes and be back. Like, I know I'm not going to starve out there because I can be back in 10 minutes. And yeah, I loved riding my bike, and I sort of stopped riding my bike when I was about 18, and then I started again, like under 10 years ago. So like, you know, I was late 20s, I guess, mid 20s. When I started riding my bike. It's when I came back from London, actually, because like riding a bike in London I'd have died. It's crazy. But when I came back to Bedford from London, I started riding my bike again, because there's some beautiful like places to ride your bike around here. We're sort of out in the country, but in a town. So if you go like 5 minutes, you're in the countryside. And the feeling was exactly the same. It was the exact same feeling of joy and happiness that I had when I was like 10 or 11. And it's one of my most favorite things to do is ride my bike. I like riding my bike every day. And it's just a great way of getting kind of some headspace, really. So yeah, absolutely. My memories, most of them, they either go back to me drawing pictures of like Star Wars to bring it full circle again, or riding my bike. But I think riding my bike is I mean, because also it's something I can do with my friends as well. It's a really happy memory, me riding my bike.
Yeah, when you said that, I got some images of myself riding a bike growing up too.
Totally.
There's something so emotional about it.
When you come here next, or when I come there, we'll go on a bike ride.
I'm gonna ride there. I'm gonna ride over the ocean.
Wow.
Yeah. It's the whole thing I'm gonna do. Yep.
That is commitment, Michael.
Well, look, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Do you want anyone to like follow you on anything? Or?
Enough. I've got enough.
Okay.
If they want to follow me,
they'll find you.
I'm on Instagram. Instagram's my favorite, so come and find me on Instagram, I think.
Okay, awesome. Look, thanks so much for doing this.
Lovely to see you, Michael.
You too.